This is a Christian workshop about defending the Word of God, regardless of your situation. There are two things I want you to get out of this workshop. Number one, I want you to be able to defend the Word of God effectively. And number two, I want you to be able to defend the Word of God honorably. If you are a Christian, then at some point in your life, you will find yourself in a situation of needing to defend the Word of God. And I want you to be prepared and confident. So I think you'll find the information I share with you to be very beneficial. Now, before we get started, I want to go over the format for this workshop so that you'll know exactly what to expect. It is divided into 3 parts, and in this first part, I'll teach you 6 things to help you be more fruitful in defending the Christian faith, and I'll do it by using trigger words. I believe that by using trigger words, you will be able to remember the information better and have an easier time following along. In part 2, we will do some role playing, or at least as best we can through a video. And it's very important that you participate because it will give you an opportunity to apply the things you learn in this video. So let me say again, the more you participate in the role playing, the more you will get out of this workshop. And I sincerely want you to get as much out of this workshop as you possibly can. And then in part 3, I'll go over what I believe are some common questions that are asked. Keep in mind that workshops are most beneficial when you can ask questions and share your insights, not just from what you learned during the workshop, but also from your real life experiences. I believe there's a lot that we can learn from each other, and interactive discussions is the perfect opportunity to share your insights with the rest of us. However, since this is a video workshop, that's really not possible. So I will at least go over some of what I believe to be some of the more commonly asked questions. Let's go ahead and jump right into the teaching. I have had biblical and spiritual debates with numerous people over the years, some in person, some through email, and some through online forums. Now, over the course of those discussions, I have learned many things. I have learned what to look for, what to avoid, what to address, and what to ignore, what to do, and what not to do. So I'm teaching not only from the knowledge that I've gained over the years, but also from experience. So let's go through these 6 trigger words one by one. The first word is choose. Choose your fights wisely. I have foolishly gotten myself entangled into many pointless debates that accomplish nothing. Then I realized that I don't have to engage in a biblical or spiritual conversation with every single person that wants to do so. 2 Timothy 2:16 tells us to avoid fruitless discussions. And in Acts 19:9, we see Paul withdrawing from people because they kept speaking evil of Christianity, refusing to accept certain truths. Like Paul, we need to choose our fights wisely to know when to speak and when to remain silent, when to defend the word and when to walk away. If you discern that someone has no intention of accepting the truth and all they want to do is humiliate and mock believers, then it is probably not a good idea to engage in any kind of debate with them. The next word is love. Love them, not berate or disrespect them. One of the worst things you can do as a Christian in public is to lose your cool and start treating others hatefully. It not only brings shame to you, but to other believers as well, since you represent Christianity. It's important that you remain in control of yourself, to stay calm and focused, and to treat others always, always, always with love, even if they do not show you the same respect. If they lose their cool and start raising their voice, calling you names and being hateful, then they're going to be bringing shame on themselves. But if you can remain gentle and respectful, you will gain honor not only for yourself, but for other believers too. The next word is separate. Separate fact from fiction, or rather fact from opinion. One of the biggest problems I face when defending the Word of God is people constantly trying to pass off their opinions as facts, which probably happens about 90% of the time, or at least in my experience. Now, opinions can be either true or false, so you need to learn to recognize when someone is giving an opinion which may or may not be true versus when they are giving you a fact which is only true. Most of the people I get into spiritual and scriptural debates with seem to believe that if they say something is true, then it makes it true. So it's critical that you be aware of that. So how do we know when someone is giving their opinion or stating a fact? Well, you're going to have to increase your knowledge and understanding of the Word of God. That requires spending time reading it, studying it, and meditating on it. The more you know and understand, the better you'll be able to identify when someone is trying to feed you nonsense. Now, before we move on to the next word, let's restate the ones we've already gone over. The first word was choose. Choose your fights wisely. The second word was love. Love them, not berate or disrespect them. And the third word was separate. Separate fact from fiction. Our fourth word is test. Test everything that is said. Once you suspect that someone has tried to pass off their opinion as fact, you must put it to the test. Something true can only be true, but an opinion can be either true or false. If someone is hanging on to a false opinion, then they're not going to accept the truth until they acknowledge or at least realize that their opinion is false. So if you don't put their opinion to the test, then the debate will almost be guaranteed to end in a stalemate. Your goal is to help them see and accept the truth, not to prove them wrong and not to prove yourself right. The important thing is for you and the person you're having a conversation with to know and accept the truth. So it's important that you try and get them to acknowledge that what they claim to be factual is merely their opinion, especially if you know that their opinion is false. Oftentimes, the best way to do that is to have them prove to you that what they said is indeed true. The same thing goes for you. You must also be careful to keep your own facts and opinions separate. If you are giving an opinion, then you need to make it clear that you are giving an opinion and not a fact, even if it is factual or that you suspect it's factual. Use phrases like, I think, or I might be wrong, but, or in my opinion, or I was under the impression that, or it is my understanding that, or even to my knowledge, etc. So I think you get the idea. It is not shameful to have an opinion that turns out to be wrong, but it is shameful to claim something as true that turns out to be false. It's embarrassing, it's humiliating, and it can make you look foolish. So if you're going to state something that's factual, you better make sure that it is indeed factual. The next word is steer. Steer the conversation. Your goal is to reveal the truth, and so you must steer the conversation with that goal in mind. You cannot allow someone to derail the conversation or steer the conversation every which way. Trust me, it happens all the time. People do not like to admit they're wrong. Both sides want to win the conversation. Both sides want to win the debate, so nobody is going to want to have to admit that they're wrong. But if nobody acknowledges that they're wrong, then nothing will come out of the conversation. You end up in a stalemate. Since people don't like to lose or admit they're wrong, they will often try to dodge or distract. They will do everything they can to avoid having to admit they're wrong, even if it means bailing out of the conversation and throwing a few nasty words in your direction in the process. But in my opinion, that is better than a stalemate because at least they were made aware of the truth, even though they didn't like it or accept it. So when someone attempts to dodge your questions or steer the conversation in a different direction in order to avoid having to acknowledge that they were wrong about something, don't let them. You must take them right back to the same question, the same issue, as many times as is necessary until they either refuse to answer or it becomes very clear to everyone that they will not answer, at which time you just say something like, okay, so you're not going to answer the question. Believe it or not, it is very helpful when they know that you are fully aware of their refusal to answer a question. Okay, the last word is let. Let them decide what to believe. It is not your job to make other people accept what is true. Everyone must make their own choices in life. Our job is to reveal the truth, to help them see what the truth is. Hopefully they will accept it, but if they refuse to accept it, then that is their choice, and you have to learn to be okay with that. Otherwise, you can end up stressing yourself out in a futile attempt to make them do something they're not going to do or don't want to do. People need to accept the truth willingly. However, because we love them and because we want what's best for them, it's very tempting for us to pressure them until we're blue in the face, but we shouldn't. If we do, we're probably only going to cause ourselves a lot of frustration. Now let's see how well you remember all of that. I'll read each trigger word one at a time and give you a few seconds to recall what they mean. The first word is choose. What teaching does that bring to mind? To choose your fights wisely, because sometimes it's better to say nothing at all. The second word is love. What is that referring to? To love those you have biblical and spiritual discussions with. You want to keep your cool at all times. The third word is separate. What's that about? It's about keeping opinions and facts separate, especially your own. Never try to pass off your opinions as fact. Never. And don't let others get away with trying to pass off their opinions as facts either. Just make sure you do it in a loving and respectful manner. The fourth word is test. What does test mean? It means to test everything that is said. If someone gives you a fact that you suspect is an opinion, then put it to the test. Have them verify that it is factual. The next word is steer. What does the word steer bring to mind? Steer the conversation. Don't let the other person dodge your questions or change the subject, especially when something untrue is about to come to light. Sure, it's going to make them a little uncomfortable, but that is part of the process. You want to reveal the truth, and sometimes to do that, you have to reveal what is not true. The last word is let. What's that about? Let them decide whether they want to accept the truth or not. Your job is to reveal the truth, but it's up to others to accept it or reject it. If you were able to stay focused through all of that, then I give you a cheerful 2 thumbs up, because I know how hard it can be to pay attention when someone's teaching. In part 2, we will do some simple role playing, which I believe may help you, because not only will it give you a chance to apply what you've learned, it will hopefully build your confidence in adding these techniques to what you're already doing.